Hello, Creative Station followers. It's Peter Fujiwara back again for episode 8. And this one is on iOS accessories to help your filmmaking. Now we're going to break down these accessories into two categories, hardware and software. And then we're going to further subdivide those categories into video accessories in the hardware category and audio accessories in the hardware category. Now, similarly, we'll do the same thing for software. Video software that can help improve your filmmaking and audio software that can help your filmmaking. So that's how we're going to proceed. So let's begin with hardware. So hardware for video, now to improve your images, one of the first things you want to do is decide whether you're getting devices for static or dynamic images. So a static image would be like you're filming an interview or something like that. And obviously you could just hold your phone like this and just do the interview like that. Now that can cause, even if you're a very steady person, it could cause some shake. Putting a simple handle like this, an Amazon Basics handle with a little clamp, will make a huge difference in the stability of the image that you take. Even better than that, though, is if you put the clamp onto an actual tripod. So something like this, a small tripod like this, that you could place on a table would make a huge difference. So this is just a little Manfrotto tripod. Other tripods would be like this GorillaPod, which allows you to attach it to different things. So if this was a branch to a tree, I could just wrap the arms around it and hang my phone and shoot with that. Now, one of the better tripods that you can get, which is a multi-purpose one like this is called the Switch Pod. And the reason why I like this is the arms fold up like this, so you can use it as a selfie stick. So now I've got not just a tripod, which all I have to do is rotate this out like this, and now I have a tripod, but I can also use it to do vlogging. An excellent device called a Switch Pod. Now, the other thing that you want to consider now, these are all short tripods. Now, what you may want to get into is a longer tripod. So there are different kinds. Now, this one is actually not for an iPhone. It's actually for a 360 camera. And it has a tripod base. Now, there are many different tripods setups like this. So let's take a look at that. Now, the nice thing about this is I can actually extend this so it actually stands on the ground. So I've got this like this. So if you're videotaping yourself and you needed it up a little higher, you could get a tripod like this. Last but not least, you could use a full-size tripod. So this is a very high-end tripod, and all I did was add on the phone mount. So if you have a good video tripod or photo tripod, you can just add the phone mount to your tripod, and now you've got an incredibly stable base to shoot your interviews or anything that requires stable footage. Now, the other kinds of shots that you may want to take are moving shots. So moving shots involve you moving with your phone. So for example, if someone was running and you wanted to capture that running action, or anything where there's a movement of the camera, or like these slider shots that we did, all those ones require a movement. Now with those, what you want to do is use your handle again. So your simple handle again like this, put your phone on, and this for movement is far better than trying to hold it like this. Now, but obviously the very best thing you can do for movement is to get a 3-axis gimbal. So the 3-axis gimbal, this is the high end of the phone gimbals. It's called a Freefly Movi Cinema Robot. So as you can see, I have the Cinema Robot off right now, even though my phone is balanced. When I turn it on, you can see it automatically levels itself. Now, when I shoot and I move back and forth like this or up and down, it is going to stay perfectly stable. No matter which way I move, it is going to stay stable. And so I can start recording by clicking the button, and I can record in and I can record out. I can do all the different movements with this, even running and walking and things like that, where the camera would normally be very violently moving. With this, it will be stable. And there's so many different versions of 3-axis gimbals that you can look at. The ones that I would recommend, this is obviously one that I'd recommend, but it's very expensive. It's the FreeFly Movi Cinema Robot. The other ones that I'd recommend would be the Osmo DJI Osmo 3. Zhuwin Smooth Q2 is also one that I'd look at. And there's one odd one that I really like, which is called the Snopa Atom, which has actual microphone built in, where you can connect to your phone and it actually has a microphone port on it, as well as wireless charging built right into the 3-axis gimbal. So other ones that you can look at. Now, one of the other things that you can do to improve the image on your phone is to actually add lenses. Now, on my iPhone 11, I do have 3 lenses. I have a super wide, a regular wide, and a telephoto. Now, you might ask, why would I need to add lenses if I have 3 lenses already? Well, there's very specific reasons. Now, the lenses that I've chosen are these ones called moment lenses. So if you look at this lens, this is the moment wide angle lens. And what I like to do is put it on the standard wide lens, which allows me to shoot like super wide. The difference being is that the f-stop on the super wide is f2.4, whereas the f-stop on the regular wide is 1.8. What this allows me to do is get much better depth of field on this and still get that super wide angle. In addition, I can shoot in lower light as well. So it adds some additional functionality that you wouldn't have otherwise. And it's a beautiful picture, and these are beautiful lenses. The other thing that I can do with this, which is very important, is I can add additional accessories. For filmmaking, one of the things that you want to do is always follow the 180-degree shutter rule, which means that if I'm shooting at a certain frame rate, and I prefer 24p, which is 24 frames per second, then you should be shooting at a shutter speed that is double that frame rate, or a 48th of a second, or a 50th, anything that's close to that. In order to do that, that's a very slow shutter speed. So if you're in bright sunlight, it's very, very difficult to keep that shutter speed down low so that the image doesn't become totally white. So what you do in real filmmaking with higher end cameras is you add what are called neutral density filters. By having this particular lens on here, they actually make an accessory where I can add this on and then take a neutral density filter like this and screw it on. So now with this on, and it's looking quite large now what I can do is shoot at that shutter speed so that I get the kind of motion blur is what I'm looking for that makes the images look significantly better and more filmic. So here are some examples that I'd like to show you what it looks like when you're shooting at 120, like at the following the 180-degree shutter rule. And so this is what it looks like. And if you notice the person's hands moving, the hands moving actually has decent blur, which is really the way we like to see film. Now, this next shot is very, very high shutter speed. And if you notice, the hands sort of seem jerky, and even the movement seem jerky, just because there is no blur between the frames. So each image is so sharp, it seems very jerky. So if you look at these still images, this image where it's blurred is the regular 24p following the 180-degree shutter rule. And then this one where it's sharp like a photograph, that just doesn't work for film. So what you want to be able to do is follow that 180-degree shutter rule in order to make your shots look more cinematic, more film-like. Anyway, that's an excellent accessory to have. I should also mention that they also make telephoto lenses, and they make super wide fisheye lenses and macro lenses. So all these different accessories that allow you to take different kinds of shots with your iPhone. Now, the next thing we're going into is audio. So audio we've covered a little bit. So I've shown you different lavalier microphones, which I'll pull out one here now. So this particular lavalier mic that I got off Amazon, which is relatively inexpensive, it's $40. You essentially just plug it in, and on mine, since I don't have the 3.5 inch mini pin, I just plug this device in and then plug that in, and then I can wear this lav, which gives you significantly better audio. Now, there are many different kinds of lavs that you can get, and I actually have about 3 different kinds. And what you want to do is test it out based on your voice and the way you speak. This particular lav is very hot, which means it's very sensitive. So which means that if you tend to speak softly and don't project your voice, this would be ideal, because this would allow you to speak normally and it would pick up the sound quite well. Whereas I tend to project, so I got this one, which is an aperture one, as opposed to the Dewey's one, which has this device here, which allows me to speak at my volume, and it will capture at the appropriate level. Now, one of the best things to get is an additional piece that can help you capture using higher end microphones. So I'm going to show you this one. This is the one that I have, and this is one of the first ones ever to come out. This is called an iRig Pre. Pre meaning preamp for any mic that's coming into this device, and then you plug it directly into your phone. What this allows you to do, because it has an XLR port on the end, is take an XLR cable, plug it in, and then take a microphone and plug that in. And this is a high-end dynamic mic, which normally you could never plug into a phone, but now with this device, you can. With these devices, you also could plug in wireless transmitter receivers. So you could have high-end wireless going into your iPhone, which would allow you to collect amazing audio, just like you would with higher-end cameras. Now, this particular device is actually not the one that I would recommend now. The one that I would recommend now is actually, there's a whole series of them made by Saramonic. So if you take a look at these ones, the Saramonic versions of these, this allows you to capture a single XLR connection and is much better made than these. It has a gain control knob on it as well, as you can see. And there's ones that have a lightning port connected that goes directly from here instead of the mini pin, which, to be honest, I do not recommend. It actually limits you with the lightning connector because it limits you to only iPhone devices. Whereas if a student had an Android phone, or if there was another device that had a mini pin connection, you would not be able to use it. However, if you had the mini pin one, you always have the mini pin to lightning connector that you can add on. So obviously you could use these ones for both. So I only recommend these. Now also look at the Saramonic ones that have dual connections. So the dual connection ones also come in lightning, which I do not recommend, but it also comes in mini pin. So if you wanted to have 2 microphones connected and doing, say, an interview of some kind, then that would be a great device to have. However, like if you are a musician and you want the very, very best, there is a device made by a company called Centrance, which is by far the best. There's a mixer face and there is a micro port, which are the best of the best. Made of solid metal, have different connections in, they have batteries built in. You can actually record the audio into the device if you want, but these are very, very expensive. However, if you are an iPhone filmmaker and that's what you want to do, you don't want to get the big cameras and things like that, that would be the audio device to get. Now, this next section is on software. And I have two recommendations for software that can capture better images, which changed recently. Obviously, the first one that I always recommend is Filmic Pro. So if you look at the Filmic Pro app, and it's not free, I have to remind you of this. It's not free. So when you look at Filmic Pro has a series of different controls on it that you would definitely want to have. You have control of your white balance. You have control of the lens that you want to put on. You have frame rate control. You have the actual file size and file type that you want, the different resolutions that you have. All are available in Filmic Pro. In addition, you also have control of the actual focus. So you can bring the focus in manually and do rack focuses manually with this app, which is incredible. Now, the reason why I'm saying that this is not the only app that I recommend is because recently I noticed an upgrade in the app that I use for photography, which is the Moment app, the app that is used for the lenses. The lens manufacturers created their own app. And when I looked at this one, I thought, oh, look at it actually has focus control now, which was really interesting. Now, the cool thing with their focus control is they actually show green highlights on the parts of the image that are in focus, which for me was incredible. So when I look at this, I can see what is in focus and what is out of focus. For me, that is an incredible feature of the software. So those are the two applications that I would recommend for improving your image quality, allowing you to set your frame rates, allowing you to set your resolution, choosing your white balance, and manually focusing. All these are characteristics of a really good filming app. Now moving on to audio. I think you know which app that I recommend based on the sound design episode that we had previously. Now, the one that I like to use is called Voice Record Pro. Now, Voice Record Pro, just like the others, allows you to save in a lossless format, which is like WAV or AIFF format. And in this case, it saves in WAV. And so when you save in WAV, it also gives you gain control, which is the critical piece. So like I mentioned before with that lav that has a very hot signal, you would have to be able to bring the gain down in order to make sure that those levels didn't peak and cause distortion. Or if you're a very soft speaker and you need to bring up the gain, then you could bring up the gain as well. So this app allows you to bring it up or bring it down appropriately. And so any app that allows you that gain control is the one that I'd recommend using. But in this case, I'm recommending Voice Record Pro. Now that brings us to the end of episode 8. I hope you've enjoyed the different iOS accessories you can have to improve your video and audio performance, both hardware and software. Now we're going to be continuing with one more episode because we're going to be talking about finding a story and continuing your journey in video iPhoneography. What are the next steps? So please join me in the live this coming Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we may have a special guest to speak to us about where you can go from here and finding a story. Hope to see you then.